as he passed. "You're looking fine, Joe." He went up the curving Regency staircase and passed along a thickly carpeted corridor. The only sound was a slight persistent hum from the dynamo in the radio room, but he moved past the door and mounted 2 steps into another corridor. Here the silence was absolute, and he opened a large white-painted door at the far end and went in. The room was small and plainly furnished, with a desk in one corner on which stood a typewriter and several telephones. Jean Fraser was bending over a filing cabinet, and she looked up, a slight smile on her round, intelligent face. She removed her spectacles with one hand and frowned. "You look pretty rough." Chavasse grinned. "I usually do at this time in the morning." She was wearing a plain white blouse and a tweed skirt of deceptively simple cut that moulded her rounded hips. His eyes followed her approvingly as she walked across to her desk and sat down. He sat on the edge of the desk and helped himself to a cigarette from a packet which was lying there. He lit it and blew out a cloud of smoke with a sigh of satisfaction. "Now what's all the fuss about? What's the chief got on his mind that's so important it can't wait until a respectable hour?" She shrugged. "Why don't you ask him yourself? He's waiting for you inside." He frowned slightly. "Another job?" She nodded. "I think it's something pretty big." Chavasse cursed softly and got to his feet. "What does he think I'm made of? Iron?" Without waiting for a reply, he walked across to the far door, opened it, and went in. The room was half in shadow. The only light, the shaded lamp which stood upon the desk by the window. The chief was reading a sheaf of typewritten documents, and he looked up quickly, a slight frown on his face. It was replaced by a smile, and he waved a hand towards a chair. "So they finally managed to locate you, Paul. Sit down and tell me about Greece." Chavasse slumped into the chair and pushed his hat back from his forehead. "Didn't you get my coded report from the embassy in Athens?" The chief nodded. "I had a quick look at it when it came in yesterday. It seems satisfactory. Any loose ends?" Chavasse shrugged. "1 or 2. Your hunch about Skiros was right. He was a double agent, been working for the commies for the past 4 years. They'll have to wait a long time for his next report." The chief selected a cigarette from a silver box and lit it carefully. "How did you manage it?" "I traced him to Lesbos," Chavasse said. "He was having a skin-diving holiday. Unfortunately, something went wrong with his aqualung one afternoon. By the time they got him back to the beach, it was too late." The chief sighed. "Most unfortunate." Chavasse leaned across the desk. "Now I've explained the finer points of the affair, perhaps I can go back to bed." He got to his feet and crossed to the window. "I feel as if I haven't slept for a month." He stood there, staring out into the rain for a moment, and then turned abruptly. "To be perfectly frank, on the way over here, I was considering packing things in." The chief raised his eyebrows in surprise. "Could you see yourself going back to lecturing in a provincial university?" He shook his head. "Not a chance, Paul. You're the best man I've got. One of these days you'll be sitting behind this desk." "If I live that long," Chavasse said sourly. The chief gestured to the chair. "Come and sit down and have another cigarette. You always feel like this when a job's over, especially when you've killed somebody. What you need is a long rest." "Then what about it?" Chavasse said. "Christ knows I've earned one. This last year's been hell." "I know, Paul, I know," the chief said soothingly, "and I'll see you get one. After this next job." Chavasse turned from the window angrily. "For God's sake, am I the only man the Bureau's got? What about Wilson or Lacosta?" The chief shook his head. "I sent Wilson to Ankara last month. He disappeared his 2nd day there. I'm afraid we'll have to cross him off the list. And Lacosta? He cracked up after that affair in Cuba. I've put him into the home for 6 months." The chief sighed. "I had a psychiatrist's report this morning. Frankly, it wasn't too good. I'm afraid we shan't be able to use Lacosta again." Chavasse moved across to his chair and slumped down into it. He helped himself to a cigarette from the box the chief held out to him, and lit it with a steady hand. After a while he smiled. "All right, I give in. You'd better put me in the picture." The chief got to his feet. "I knew you'd see it my way, Paul, and don't worry. You'll get that holiday. This affair shouldn't take you more than a couple of weeks at the most."